Hey guys, welcome to the midweek patron-only video of the week. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different. We had a video submission from one of our Keep members, Mike Koski, submitted a video all the way from the Gulf of Mexico, and I'm going to show you guys a sort of a topic that I come across a lot with beginning players, and it has to do with basic right hand mechanics. And I think this topic is useful not only to beginners, but for people who have never sat in a room with a teacher. This can help you sort out some common errors in right hand mechanics for clawhammer banjo. So Mike, this is for you, and it's also for everybody else. I hope you guys enjoy. I've got a different setup today, so I hope it works. I have no idea if it's going to work. I'm going to use my iPhone to capture a close-up so you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about. So this all has to do with Mike's video. So if you haven't watched Mike's video, you don't have to watch the whole thing. Watch a couple minutes of it, watch a few seconds of it, and you'll see what I'm talking about in this little instructional video today. All right, here we go. Let's dive into it. So beginners often misunderstand the clawhammer stroke as centering on their striking hand. And the problem with this is that you can see a beginner will often extend their fingers on the downstroke, sort of an opening and closing of the hand. If you watch Mike's video, you can see him doing this. You can see him extending his fingers during his stroke, especially when he goes to his fourth string. He almost rotates his hand out and then continues to extend his hand to try to get that downstroke to happen. Now, the problem with this is speed. You're never going to be able to generate a lot of speed if you do it this way, because this opening and closing of the hand is a lot slower, and it's sort of a compound motion when compared with the knocking motion. That this is what you want in your clawhammer, where you're not extending your hand, you're using a knocking motion. It's a very simple motion. It's not a compound motion. The hand releases down into the banjo and the fingers are kind of locked in, and all of the energy is coming from the forearm and the wrist. So that contrasts with what Mike is doing and lots of other people that I teach, where the motion is sort of hand centric versus wrist and forearm centric. So let me try to demonstrate this. I hope this works, guys. Okay, so this is the wrong way to do it, where I'm opening my fingers. Versus the right way to do it, where I keep my fingers curled in and I use the energy from my wrist and forearm to generate my power. My heat's whistling today. It's cold. It's an old steam heat system, so I've just got to make do here. Let me show you this a little bit more quickly. Watch carefully. It's a subtle difference. I'm going to try this. Let me try it on the first string again, and then I'll move to the fourth if that doesn't work. So I'm going to try it a little faster. This is the wrong way to do it. And this is the correct way. Let's look at the fourth string, because that really shows in Mike's video. He's really using his fingertips to get that motion. It's a little hard for me to duplicate this because I've worked hard to get rid of this motion in my own playing. So let's see if I can recreate it a little bit. Yeah, see, my accuracy goes way down when I try to do this. Versus, see how my hand stays together in that shape? Let me give you a little bit of a side view. That is the correct way. My hand travels through the string, and my nails stay parallel to the head, locked in a clawhammer shape. Versus the wrong way, where I'm using my hand muscles to squeeze and contract and get my sound. So it's a little tricky to undo this. It takes a lot of concentration and a lot of focus to unlearn that hand opening behavior, but it pays huge dividends down the line, including speed, volume, tone, general aptitude, and sort of crispness on the strings with the right hand. And that's a word I use a lot in a lot of my lessons. I like my students to have a crisp and lightness on the instrument instead of sort of a heavy sort of slog on the strings. So Mike, what I would recommend is you pay attention to that hand opening and closing and try to make a slightly more rigid structure. I'll show you here in the video, the other camera. A more rigid structure. Instead of opening and closing, you're traveling into the banjo like this. Now, one of the things that complicates this, and I hesitate to even mention it, is there is a weird biomechanical phenomenon where even in my knock, my fingers extend a little bit. And so that's what makes this really hard to demonstrate on video. You just have to trust me that I am not consciously opening that hand and extending my fingers into the strings. It's sort of a biomechanical process whereby as I strike the string, my fingers naturally naturally open a little bit. Again, I hesitate to mention this because this can cause a little bit of confusion, but here's the metaphor that I want to leave you with, Mike, and for all the other people who are trying to unlearn this bad habit. You need to think of playing banjo as knocking on a door. When you knock on a door, you would never extend your hand into that door to try to get a strike. You'd keep your fingers curled in and you'd naturally break the wrist and the fingers would stay curled in so you could kind of lead with your knuckle. And that is very similar, almost exactly, to a good right hand claw hammer stroke. Your fingers are not extending, but you're colliding and crashing through the strings, and the fingers are remaining curled in. The energy comes from the forearm and the wrist versus the hand. Okay, this is probably going to be a tricky video to edit, but I hope this helps you, Mike, and for all the other people who are working on this, I hope it helps a little bit. If you're a veteran player, tune into your right hand and see if this is part of what is holding your speed back. Because inevitably, when I hear from a player who says that they're not able to play up to speed, play quickly with the right hand, and the left hand is sorted, this ends up being the number one problem, probably 8 or 9 times out of 10, the extension into the banjo and the energy coming from the hand versus the wrist and the forearm. Please ask questions below. If I am unclear, I will clarify. And I will see you Friday. This Friday, I'm releasing a video as usual. It is not going to be the continuation of the Old Time Survival Guide. I have sort of a fun sort of surprise video for this week. We will return to the Survival Guide next week, so stay tuned for that. Thanks once again for being a part of this most excellent banjo community. I'll see you Friday.